Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be successful daytime pickup. Well, I'm here in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, just having working away from Orlando today. So I'm down chilling out by the beach. And I've got one email that I'm going to go through with you. And the guy's got some really good results with the things I've been teaching. And he wrote a nice detailed email that goes through exactly what he experienced. And what's interesting about this email is he met a couple of girls, and some dude immediately walks in shortly afterwards and tries to cock block him. And he does a beautiful job of handling things and applying what I teach. And the good news is he read my book, I think he said 10 to 15 times, or 12 to 15 times, something like that. So what does that mean? He learned the fundamentals and he was prepared. And it's just like Confucius said, success depends upon prior preparation. And without said preparation, there is sure to be failure. So I got a quote that I wrote on this topic that I want to share with you, and then we're going to go ahead and jump right in through his email. And the quote says, being an alpha male is not being a jerk or an asshole. It's about being yourself, knowing who you are, what you want, living your truth, speaking your truth, and staying true to who you are without compromising your values or principles. It's about going for what you want in life without fear and despite the possibility of failure. Alpha males do not seek or need the approval of others. They demonstrate their masculinity through the sheer presence of their actions, character, and presence. They lead and live by example. They respect the opinions and beliefs of others and demand that others respect theirs. They grovel to no one. They don't take themselves or life too seriously. Life is a gift meant to be enjoyed and magnified through experiences with others by creating great memories together. So let's go ahead and jump right into his email. He says, hey Corey, I wanted to thank you for your words of wisdom as they have gotten me through some darker times. I'm 29, 5'10", biracial male who is physically fit and takes care of himself. Naturally, I tend to be a very introverted person. However, I would always get compliments on my looks and how articulate and conversational I was. Yet despite all this, I was never able to attract my ideal 10 out of 10. I began watching your YouTube videos and it became quite clear that I actually need to pick up your book and read. Imagine that. Learning the fundamentals. He says, after doing so, I couldn't put it down. I read your book 10 to 12 times within the first 2 months of having it. Dude, that's fucking outstanding. I love it when somebody follows instructions and actually does what I teach them to do, because there's a reason. You gotta be prepared. And when these situations present themselves, if you're not prepared because you don't know the information, it's like when I talk to guys and they're really struggling, 90% of the time, one of the biggest challenges that they're having, one of the first things I'll ask them, how many times you read my book? I'm about to get through my first time, or I'm about to start reading it the second time, which usually means they probably haven't read it at all. And then just listening to the things that they're doing and saying, that's why they're so confused. They think, hey, I can watch a few of Corey's videos and I get this shit. It doesn't work like that. I mean, think about it. For those of you guys that are in college, you can't go in and half-ass a class and not ever study and expect to walk in and ace the test. I mean, I had a few high school buddies that I went to school with that were like that. They could literally sit in a lecture and just pick up calculus and then go in and ace the test. Most people aren't like that. I'm certainly not that smart. He says, my life has never been the same since. Today I had perhaps the most life-changing revelation in terms of my pickup game. Currently I'm in San Diego, Pacific Beach, where the weather is hot and the beaches are beautiful and the women even more so. Sounds like a target-rich environment. He says, one can imagine that there's a bit of competition. Well, if you apply things I teach, you won't have any fucking competition because most guys don't know this stuff. He says, a good friend of mine and I were out for a Sunday fun day having a drink at a local bar, and we noticed 3 absolutely gorgeous girls walk in. Easily, they were 8 out of 10s. Every guy was eye-fucking them as they made their way in. Now, one thing I would definitely suggest if you haven't read it already is to read the article I did called How to Get Women to Approach You First, and watch the video that I did that's also posted on that page called Body Language That Attracts Women. It's one of the most popular videos that I've done to date. He says, my friend and I were sitting at the extreme opposite end of the bar with our sunglasses on, acting like we own the place. We were in plain sight of any potential females, and it was clearly a game-winning position. Bearing that in mind, I calmly turned my friend and said that I was going to establish some type of visual connection with one of the females. Turns out, thanks to your advice, I didn't have to work that hard. I'm shocked, I tell you. I was already being eye-fucked by one of the females in the group. Now, why would that be? You're having a good time, you're with your buddy, you're in the middle of the day, you're like a fucking vampire, you got your sunglasses on, you're laughing your asses off, entertaining each other, and everybody else is all grouped in one area. If you go to any bar or any nightclub, that's usually what you see. You walk in, you see a few small groups of people having a great time, as if they're in their own little world, not paying attention to anybody else, and then you got everybody else kind of in the corner with their beers and their drinks in front of their chest, looking like they ain't seen a pretty girl ever in their life. He says, calmly and slowly, I raised my sunglasses with my right hand, looked her straight in the eyes, and raised my eyebrows with a shit-eaten smirk on my face to let her know I was interested. I wanted to let her know that I wasn't just looking in her general direction, given that I had a pair of dark sunglasses on. So in other words, you raised your sunglasses up and revealed your interest. This is what an alpha male does. Oh my God, I got to take a closer look at that girl. Wow. And you didn't break eye contact. That's what an alpha male does. He looks where he pleases to look. He looks where he feels like looking. He looks at what he wants, and he doesn't give a fuck what other people think. Again, just like I said in the quote, he's not being an asshole about it. He's noticing the beautiful woman in his periphery. And he's not sitting there trying to hide her, keep his sunglasses on, or sitting there pointing at her like most douchebags tend to do. He's acting like a guy who's recognizing, wow, a beautiful goddess has just walked in to this place. Who is that over there? He says, I was surprised at the response I received. I'm not. He says she smiled, began to play with her hair, licked her lips, and looked away to whisper something in her friend's ear. Now look at those indicators of interest. She smiled back at you, which means she likes what she sees. She began to play with her hair. When women do that, it's, hey, notice me, look at me, do you think I'm pretty? Licked her lips. I'm going to devour you, big boy. Looked away to whisper something in her friend's ear. Submissiveness, she looked away first. How much more telltale could you get? This is what happens when you read the book 10 to 50 times. You're not sitting there going, how do I tell if a girl likes me, Corey? It's like pretty fucking obvious. He says, as you state in your book, I could feel her attraction. This is what happens when you read the book and you know it so well, you don't have to think about it. You develop your sensory acuity, so right away, it just, boom, instantly, you can recognize when there's attraction. He says, over the next 2 to 3 minutes, she would continue to project her interest in my general direction. Finally, I turned to my friend and said, I'm going to get up, go over there, and come back with her phone number, then we're leaving. He smiled at me and kind of laughed and said, good luck. He's going for it. He's going for what he wanted. He says, when I first got over to the group of girls, there were 2 other gentlemen there. Everybody just kind of ignored me. Clearly, it was a bit of a shit test. To break things up, I simply said, all right, I see how it is. I'll just stand here awkwardly for the next hour or so. Finally, everybody stopped and began to laugh. In other words, he's showing up and he's playfully saying, here I am. I'm a man. I'm showing up. I'm doing my fucking part. He says, the girl who I was initially interested in was laughing especially hard. She was going out of her way to communicate that she likes you. This is what they do. They help you when they like you. He says, the girl I was initially interested in was laughing especially hard despite the fact I didn't think it was really funny. After that, immediately I went around and asked for people's names, never giving out my own name until they asked for it. Pretty powerful. Interestingly enough, the only woman who, after I asked for her name, asked for mine in return, was the one who had been giving me the signs all evening. What a coinky-dink. Around this time, 2 other rather large, tall African-American gentlemen came up and were clearly there for the same reason I was. They were interested in the same woman as me. But the difference is, you've been following what I teach and learning. Therefore, you have the upper hand, my friend. He says, one of the gentlemen immediately began to throw himself at her. He was going in for the cock block. First, she seemed to enjoy it. In other words, trying to see if you would be diminished by this, which of course, since you're prepared, it's not going to happen. Then he turned his interest on me and he began to cock block me, trying to give me pointers on how to pick up a woman in front of all these other women, expecting me to get dick hurt. But you know better. He says each time he'd say something, I'd simply turn it around and make it into a joke, brush it off, and I began to genuinely laugh. In other words, he's not diminished. Just like I talk about my book. It's like James Bond. He's fucking laughing his ass off internally at this guy. He says, I was laughing because I was in my center, I was calm, and I was comfortable with myself. He was clearly intimidated by my presence even though I was 4 inches shorter. Each time I would laugh, the other women would laugh with me. That tells me the women are in rapport with you, my friend, because you had balls. You saw what you wanted, and you went right after it. He says, before I knew it, they were on my side. It was at this time that she began to make physical contact with me. More indicators of interest. Women touch you when they like you. They can't keep their hands to themselves. This is what happens. The other gentleman made a comment that, oh my gosh, she just touched you. That's when you say, yeah, and she didn't touch you. What does that tell you, dude? Maybe you should be taking pickup tips from me, my friend. You should have said that. That would have definitely gotten a laugh. He says the other gentleman made a comment that, oh my gosh, she just touched you. You're in the good. What's more is, I happen to be an accomplished hip-hop dancer. The other gentleman began to try to instruct me on how to dance and how all women like a guy that can dance. It was then and there that I laid it down. So you obviously got your freak on. He says, this caught the attention of the girl I was interested in. So it happens, she herself was an accomplished dancer. People who like the same things tend to like each other. Energetically, vibrationally, you guys are at the same place. That's a big reason why the two of you are automatically drawn to one another. He says, this is why it's so important to go after women that are mutually interested. There's a reason that there's mutual interest there. He says, I began to tease her and tell her that how come I'm the only one out here dancing and she's just sitting there. Her weak alibi was that she had a drink in her hand. Looking at the drink, it looked something like a glass of water, so I made fun of her for it. Immediately, she said, come here and have a sip if you don't believe me. So already she's swapping spit with you, and she just met you. I mean, obviously you're not kissing, but she's already letting you drink out of her glass. That's pretty intimate. That shows that she's really comfortable with you. Again, more indicators of interest. Immediately, he says, so I put another shit-eating smirk on my face, grabbed the drink out of her hand, and I took a sip. I said, not bad, you got lucky this time. Finally, she turned to me and pulled me to the side. Now she's isolating you from the group. She looked up at me and said, here. She dug through her purse. I'm going to give you one of my cards. I laughed out loud and said, escorts aren't really my thing. That's pretty fucking funny, dude. That's good. Good job. He says again with a shitting smirk, I said this. She laughed and said, no, you idiot. I want to give you my business cards. I own a salon. Then she said, fine, what's your number? Happily, I gave her my number. What she did next surprised me. I didn't ask for her number, and she simply gave my cell phone a call. Then she said two things to me. One, a slight insecurity that my number was false, and number two, that she wanted to ensure that I had her number as well. She wants to make sure that before she leaves this place, you got her number and she's got yours. Very high level of interest. And remember, from the very first moment the two of you made eye contact, you didn't have to do anything. Just your existence, the fact that you were there, she found you instantaneously, visibly appealing to her. This is why it's not hard. Attraction's not a choice. All you have to do is not talk women out of it. He says, after she gave me her number, I turned to her and said, I'd really like to grab a drink with you sometime. And she looked back at me and smiled, put her hand on my shoulder, more touching. Instead, she rubbed it and said she would enjoy the same, among other things. Unfortunately, I was really going out of town the next day, and the whole thing was simply to practice. Well, practice makes perfect. Repetition is the mother of skill. He says, after I got her number and I exchanged a few additional words with her, I got out of there immediately, and the aforementioned interaction took no longer than 12 minutes. It felt good, and as I said goodbye, she stared at me as if she did not want me to go. Well, you could have continued hanging out and having fun, and that could have been the first date right then and there on the spot, and you probably could have seduced her the same day. But you're out having a good time, you're with your buddy, you're not going to ditch your friend because you'll get to her later. You're fucking busy. You got shit to do, things to go, places to see. Things to do, places to go, people to see, as I should say. He says, but I only knew that it meant I would leave you wanting more. Once again, thanks for all your help, inspiration, and advice. I can't thank you enough. Continue work and continue to inspire those in need. Dude, great fucking job. I mean, it's just beautiful how simple and how effortless it happens to be and can be when you are prepared because you've read my book 10 to 15 times. And for those of you watching and you haven't either downloaded the Kindle version or you haven't got yourself a paperback version of it yet, go to my website. Underneath the email sign-up box, there's an image of my book. You can click on that. It'll take you right to Amazon. And then below that, there's a box for the Kindle edition, and there's one to order a paperback edition, whichever one works for you. And if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone coaching or Skype or email coaching with yours truly. You can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab, which will be at the top of your screen on any page of my website, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.